The hallway outside my mother's hospital room was slick with that pale, ghostly light you only get in hospitals, sucked clean of any warmth. My brother, Tommy, stood between the vending machine and the folding chair oasis for exhausted visitors. He gripped my elbow, a vice under the fake calm of family tension. "How many times do I have to say it?" he muttered, crouching closer so the words wouldn't leak through the swinging double doors. I could smell the faint tang of latex gloves even out here. "Jules, you need to get over this bakery fantasy. Mom doesn't need stress right now. And I mean," he flung a hand, nearly smacking a jittery nurse, "you can't really believe you'll make it as a pastry chef." His voice twisted pastry chef into something ugly, as if I'd confessed to running off with the circus. My heart pounded so hard, I half thought the monitors in Mom's room would pick it up. Convert my anger into jagged lines. I caught a glimpse of her past Tommy, the pale shock of her hair against the bleached pillow, the flicker of her lashes as she slept. Just last night she drifted awake and said, "Don't let them eat you alive, Julia. You were always the sweet one." She meant it as hope, but I felt cut raw. "Tommy, I'm not dropping this." My voice was steady. I'd practiced this steadiness for years, first in the echo of my childhood bedroom, then in cold rented kitchens all across Brooklyn. "This is who I am. I'm done apologizing." His face creased in disbelief, almost pity. "Baking is a hobby. You're not in France. You're here in New York with bills and rent, and look at this place." He nodded at the hospital, at the cracked linoleum curling away from the wall. "This world will chew you up and spit you out." He always sounded like our father when he got righteous. It stabbed me. "You never talk to me like I might know what I'm doing," I said, voice trembling just at the edge. "You never even taste what I make." He stepped back, folding his arms as other family members filtered down the hall, murmuring. Behind them floated laughter, false, nervous, bouncing off vinyl floor and pastel paint. People who grew up with me, neighbors who remembered me as the shy, sticky-fingered kid more comfortable with cookie dough than conversation. My Aunt Rose stopped mid-stride, eyes bright as acid. "Still chasing that cupcake thing," she drawled. "There's real work to do out there, Jules." I met her gaze. "They're not cupcakes. It's patisserie. It's my work." She snorted, a hard, quick sound that registered on my skin like a slap. For the first time, I didn't shrink. "I'll show you all," I whispered, but nobody seemed to notice. I made myself a private promise in that teeming antiseptic corridor. I would succeed, or I would break myself trying. Years tunneled by. Out in the real world, I worked every job, every hour. I measured my dreams against the night sky on subway rides home, flour dust in my hair, and sugar creasing the moonlight. For a while, I floated between temp gigs at bakeries, invisible with my accent, and cheap shoes, and an immigrant's daughter ache. The world didn't want me. And the city's kitchens were hard in a different way. They ignored rather than mocked. All steel, sweat. And culinary school grads with pedigrees longer than the block I grew up on. The first break came by accident. Sous chef at a French cafe down in the village called out sick, and I was quickest to volunteer. It was 3 a.m, pastries for dozens. I burned my hands, dropped a tray, but by dawn the glass case gleamed with neat rows of pain au chocolat and madeleines. Mr. Morel, the chef owner, rolled up his sleeves, circled the case with narrowed eyes. "You did this." He said, voice both soft and sharp. "I did." He picked up a pommier, snapped it in half, thoughtfully, flakes showering the floor. "Not bad. Too much sugar, not enough salt." A pause. "But it's alive." That was the first praise I ever got from someone who mattered. He didn't hire me full-time, but he passed my name along, and the work found me. A private dessert table for a designer, a birthday party for some minor celebrity, a night filling eclairs by the hundred for banquets. I was exhausted half the time. My hands ached, fingers red with burns and cuts. I called home, brief, tired check-ins. "Hi, Mom. No, I'm okay. Yes, I ate." Tommy barely picked up anymore, except to say, "When are you coming back to real life?" I kept quiet in those moments, nursed my anger close, let it warm me on nights I could barely afford heat. The city was a grinding wheel. Every success carried me inches forward, but always behind the shimmering glass of other people's dreams. Or so it felt, until the day that everything broke, then grew back stronger. It was the dull heart of winter when I saw the For Lease sign in an East Harlem storefront, wedged between laundromat and tiny hardware store. Something about its stubborn, battered windows drew me in. Rents were still high, but lower than downtown, and the block was alive with people. Little kids with churros, grandmothers nursing coffee, laughter in Spanish and Creole and Dominican slang. I scraped together everything I'd saved, years of tips folded and thumbed, a loan co-signed by nobody, the last cash advance on a battered credit card. I signed the lease with hands trembling from fatigue and hope. Renovation was its own trial. I did most of the work myself. Ripping out rotted wood. Painting old walls so white the sunlight stabbed my eyes in the afternoon. I slept in the back on a narrow cot, wore the same sweatpants 7 days running, ate only what I didn't burn or drop. My hands bled, my back spasmed. I cried into mop buckets and wrote to-do lists on the inside of takeout bags. And I baked. Oh, did I bake! Early mornings, I worked recipes, rewrote them, failed sometimes spectacularly. The first batch of canelés came out raw on the inside, charred on the shell. The next, perfect. I chased croissants. The line outside snaked down to the traffic light, the neighborhood out in force to see what all the banging and painting had led to. I recognized some faces from my own block growing up, others drawn by smells, vanilla, burnt sugar, yeast rising in the cold air. I felt less afraid than empty, spent, as I handed over warm bread, pastries flecked with edible gold, tarts painted with fruit I bought fresh that morning. We sold out in 3 hours. It should have felt like triumph. Instead, I only felt relief that I hadn't failed, that I could breathe another week. Word spread fast in New York. The opposite of being ignored was being noticed too much. Reviews popped up online, then in print. Julia's Patisserie is the city's best new secret, they wrote. Croissants worthy of Paris. I poured myself into every batch, every customer. Months slipped by. I was working 14-hour days and loving 10-minute breaks where I could just listen to the street noise, let the world roll by. My phone blew up with DMs and reservation requests. Suddenly, people who once glanced past me now looked twice, their words honey-sweet and full of awe. It was nice, but none of it landed the way I dreamed. Not the way I hoped when I was a teenager reading pastry cookbooks under my quilt and dreaming of respect. I called home more often. Mom's voice crackled, thin but proud now. "You sound tired, honey, but happy." "Yeah," I said, looking at my own tired face in the bakery's tiny bathroom mirror. "I think I am." Tommy didn't visit, not for months. Neither did Aunt Ro or any of them. Until luck forced it. That spring, my mother had another spell. I closed up early, ran to the hospital downtown, the old places coming alive with old memories and dread. Tommy met me at the elevator, eyes baggy, suit wrinkled. "She'll be all right," he said before I could ask. He was older, but smaller somehow, the city pressing on him in ways that made me ache for him. "They're running more tests. I wouldn't let you miss it." "I'm here," I said. That's all she'd want. He nodded, but there was something new in his look, a curious respect, or maybe just confusion. "She asks about your bakery every time," he admitted. I smiled, surprised at how little anger I felt. "Why don't you come see it?" I offered. Daring him gently. "Bring whoever you want. Aunt Ro, the cousins. Tomorrow morning. On me." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "It's about time," I said. They arrived early. I could see them out the window, Tommy in his best coat, trying to impress no one but himself, Aunt Ro in sunglasses and cheap perfume. 2 cousins tugging on their phones, unimpressed. They shuffled in together, drawing a half-dozen curious looks from the regulars. Eli, now my apprentice, was already